Raised in the city and it's all on me. Time no time when the love so blind that you're all I can see. No, the night won't be the same if you don't leave with me. Ass up, head down, necktie, your dress down. No, I like, 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 I like. Good ass girl in the brown ass city, got an itty bitty titty, but the ass come with it. Got you hoping that a flash come with it. Looking single in the club, but you hoping that a man don't get it. And she putting up late night, no teeth, play fight, big jaw, great white heart to the daylight. Put her to sleep, cause I don't need no Xan. If she fucking with me, then she gon' need both hands. Yeah, big penthouse, running up to 10,000, nothing getting ripped out, money getting sent out. Good brain, good head, get the sense out. Then I make it rain in the bed, put the tent out. She likes the way I put shit down, and I likes the way I ain't gotta call her whenever I'm in town, but she know when to pull up. Pull up on the block, throw the hood up. The Bucktown boy, what great with the foot up. Call me when you need somebody to work on that body the way that it should have. Yeah, I pull up AM, scotch color gray bands, whole room darker than Ray Bans. And I'm sitting on that ass like spray tan. I would get it poppin' with you or your hate friends, but look. Yes, sir, we in the building. Got my co-host right there with me. Yes, sir, Christian Ramsey in the building. All right, guys, let's get started. We got a great one tonight. We definitely got a great one tonight. Tonight we talking about the top players, man. The guys who paved the way for us all, you know, especially for the younger guys that try to make, you know, something out of this thing that we call a hobby, that we call our lives, you know, this thing that we so passionate about, this game called football. It's taking it to the next level. So, you know, let's get started. You know, first off, you know, we got DJ James on the list. Can't really see the bottom part, but you know, DJ James is an ECFL player. He's a quarterback playing for the Celestia Rebels. Because he's overseas, he's actually playing in Poland. Had to interview him a little earlier in the day, so actually going to post his interview separately from the live tonight. Going to post that after the show is done. But we'll be talking to Jeff Mack, you know, on the live tonight. Just waiting for him to join. He's out in the Midwest right now, out in Topeka, Kansas, playing for the IFL. So two big names to talk about, you know, tonight. As usual, you know, we're always looking for sponsors. You know, we're trying to build an incredible network, you know, of athletes, fans, teams, and a big part of that is sponsorship, right? So if you want to, you know, become a sponsor, or you want to invite somebody to become a sponsor or partner with the show, 60 for 60, any of its affiliates, leagues, teams that we work with. If you're looking for advertisement space, you know, whether it be on social media, physical space, or on video, reach out to us, you know, let us know. You know, if you got any questions about how semi-pro football can expand your business, add value to your balance sheet, you know, expand your customer base, you know, reach out to me by email at morris.hilton@ml.com. Send me a message on Facebook, or reach out to me at 914-573-8691. Listen, let's get into some of the craziness that went on this weekend, and you know, kind of just touch on what's going on around the league. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about is there's a coach. His name is Richard Batchen. He was a coach for the Connecticut Brawlers. He's now coaching overseas. These guys are looking for players. One of the guys that they signed is Dana Plant. He played for the Connecticut Fire out of the ECFL. This league is in Finland. It's called the Finland American Football Maple League. They're looking for players. One of the things that you need in order to play for these guys right now, today, is you need a passport. The team is providing, you know, apartment, car, medical insurance, food, travel expenses, plus a salary. There's actually 7 players from semi-pro currently playing in this league. great way to experience a new country, see the world, play the sport that you love. And, right now you need a dual passport, so you need a European American passport. So if you got family in a European country, if you're married to somebody that's a European citizen, they're looking for players right away. You could reach out to Coach Bachand through Facebook, Richard Richard Bachand. He's the coach of Connecticut Brawlers. One of his players actually from last year, a guy that I played against, Randy Satterfield, is actually in the USFL. He takes a particular interest in guys in special circumstances. And one of the things that he drove across to me is he wanted good intention, focused players that were looking to get a second chance. So just wanted to kind of put that out there. Always supporting other players, always supporting semi-pro as a whole. With that being said, let's get to the horn. Nothing's changed. There was actually a meeting today for the American Football News to try to get these rankings in order. They're looking back at all the teams for accuracy as far as the records and kind of league accuracy, and they're looking to readjust this, but I haven't seen anything come out just yet to change it. So this is more of just an update. Those guys, number 2, the Duval Raiders, I actually checked them out. You could find tape on these guys on YouTube. Their record up there says 8-0. From what I've seen on YouTube, they're actually in season right now. So a couple games that they played, they're a really good football team. Really, really good football team. But I don't think that they're unbeatable. I definitely see some chinks in the armor. Would love to start seeing more out of state games, but we talked about the pitfalls of trying to get teams to travel just right here. So could understand how that'd be difficult. But I would love to see some of the better teams in the Northeast go up against some of these better teams in the South, like the Louisiana Bayou Hurricanes, the Texas Red Raiders, the Duval Raiders. You got the Sumter Sharks, which is a team that actually a couple teams from the North have seen, but a lot of controversy there. And I kind of, the point of the show is to inform the people, right? So from what I heard, the Sumter Sharks is a team that loads their roster with D1 talent whenever they play somebody from out of the state. So if you're a Sumter Shark or a coach of the Sumter Sharks and you're hearing this, you got a problem with what I'm saying, come join the show. Hit me in my DMs. But from what I hear, they load their team up anytime they play somebody from the North with guys that don't really play for them during the season. So that's kind of tough. I would like to actually, get the season version of these teams and match them up and see what those leagues look like when they play, other guys. It's great to see the MLF up there, though, the Baltimore Lightning, Virginia Cyclones out of the MLF. That's, Woodland Tigers, MLF. So, yeah, let's go on to the 2A. When you look at the 2A, nothing's really changed. I've actually been in communication with the Chattanooga Eagles. I'm going to try to get their owner, maybe a player, on a future show and kind of talk to them. They're the number 1 team in 2A. Nothing much changed. Actually was hinting, one of my boys from back in the day that I used to play with, Nerd Shell, plays on the Baltimore Ravens, kind of hinted at him, what if a CT Falcons Baltimore Ravens game was to happen, 23 and 22 up there. Yeah, that definitely could happen. One of the things that kind of shocked me, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, is that the New York Ducks is on this rankings at 1-1. They're like 4th or 5th in the rankings in the TFL. There's a few teams that are better than them right now. So I think there's been a lot of pushback on these rankings. They mean but so much. At the end of the day, teams got to play each other, right? All right, so we got an update to the power rankings in the IFA. Jeez Louise, man, so much stuff happened. The Cardinals are number 1 now. They beat the Seacoast Warhawks. Remember, we said that was the game of the week for last week. It was a great game, 21-20 finish. It came down to the wire in the final seconds. The Cardinals, they got a crazy fumble recovery, and then they were able to throw a bomb basically into the corner of the end zone. The guy toe tap. Excuse me. I thought in the IFA we were playing NFL rules, but it's modified NFL rules, so it's only 1 foot needed in. Guy definitely had 1 foot in, but it was just a crazy catch and a crazy play. Shout out to the Cardinals for pulling away with that one because the Seacoast Warhawks had a substantial lead on the rest of the league as far as points. And as you can see, they took the L and they're still they're still the number 2 team by a decent margin. The Bearcats had a big shutout, so that pushed them up. I think they beat a team 20-zip. Forgot exactly what team they played. But the Patriots, actually, I think the Bearcats played the Crusaders. They beat them 20-zip. Patriots had a crazy game. Put up 50 points on the Queens Huskies. Really, really beat them down bad, and that moved them up. The Falcons dropped. They had a bye week. It was an unfortunate casualty of 2 of the better teams playing each other. The Warhawks having scored so many points on the teams that they played to start the year out kind of gave them this huge advantage. And then having a week off really didn't do much for them. So they kind of just fell down the ladder. But they got a chance to kind of avenge themselves and move their way back up. They play New York Crusaders, who fell to dead last, 0 wins on the season. I think they have 0 wins in total. They played 2 interleague games and they played 2 outer league games. And they haven't been able to win against anybody in league, out league, doesn't matter. Talked to a couple guys that played them for the Patriots. They said it's not a bad team. Said they're a talented football team. They're just missing some key pieces. Word is that these guys practice like 365. They got a full practice schedule. They're indoors, outdoors. It doesn't matter. They get together. They work on technique and things like that. Sad to not be able to see them put it on the field. But I tell you one thing, the shocker, one of the things that I left out of my write-up on the past events of the weekend was the Chargers. The Chargers upset the Mean Machine. It's kind of crazy because when you look at these rankings, we use a formula. We've got a system for how we do it. It's all about what happens on the field. The Chargers upset the Machine. The Machine dropped, but Chargers are still at the bottom because they had such a poor start to the season. Let me go back to that. They had such a poor start to the season, but sitting at 1-2, they're a team that if you go back and look at some of the comments that I made, I said they got the makings of being a great organization. I think for them, they really just need to not fold, right? They just need to stay together and make it through the season. They've already surpassed my expectations by beating the Mean Machine, and they beat them convincingly. It wasn't like a little, 2-point win or touchdown win. They beat them 32-12, I think it was. Beat them up pretty bad. They kind of showed the rest of the league that they are not as bad as we thought they were. I had them at a D offense and a D defense. They couldn't score a point. They couldn't stop 2 of the better teams in the league from scoring more than 30 points on them. But they definitely showed that they can ball. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens now with the rest of the bottom half of the league. They beat the Machine. Can they beat the Huskies? Can they beat the Crusaders? I think right now it's a fight for 7, 8, and 9 to not beat that last. I think that's really what it's going to come down to. Just don't beat in last place. And the Queens Huskies, winless. Took a pretty bad defeat to the Patriots. This is a TFL team, first year in the IFA, hoping they could really, get it together and turn this thing around. I didn't think that they were a bad team when we played them with the Falcons first game of the season. They did suffer a lot of injuries. I kind of hinted to this before that the Falcons kind of beat them up pretty bad the first game, suffered a lot of injuries. So it could be that they're injury ridden right now. The rest of the season really is going to tell. We're only in week 4. We got the second half of the season coming up. So one thing that kind of took some time to do was just go back and just try to find whatever stats I could. One of the weak points of our league is that we don't have a statistician. We don't have somebody that's spitting out at least team stats to say this team had this many passing yards, rushing yards, this many interceptions. We don't have that. So the best that we could do is just look at the points. It's kind of hard to look at rankings sometimes and justify them, but when you look at just points scored and points allowed, and then you go back and look at the rankings, I think this kind of makes things a little more clearer. Like the Seacoast Warhawks, by far the highest scoring team in the league. They 50 points above, the New York Patriots. Even the East Coast Cardinals are 70 points behind them. Like that's kind of just crazy. The Patriots really needed that 50 piece because it really boosted them up. Offense is looking great now. But when you look at teams like the Maine Machine giving up 97 points, you look at teams like the Chargers giving up 95 points. You look at teams like the Crusaders, only scored 20, gave up 54. That's kind of tough, right? And it kind of puts it into clear perspective. You got teams like the Bearcats, a team that everybody keeps saying is not quite the same team that went to the championship game last year, but they've only given up 6 points. And I got a lot of heat for saying that they're the best defense because they only gave up 6 points. Because apparently the defense didn't give up those 6 points. As of right now, that defense is, they haven't been scored upon this season. So really crazy to see that. At the end of the day, the Bearcats haven't really played a top team yet. They haven't played a top half team in the league. It'll be interesting to see if they can remain that stout against a team like the Patriots, 72 points on the season. If they can remain that stout against a team like the Cardinals. Unfortunately, the injury report is that the star quarterback of the Warhawks is out with a torn Achilles. And from what he said, he might be done with football, period. They still got a lot of weapons, but anybody that plays football, it's hard to replace a starting quarterback. It's really hard, especially mid-season, especially when you were winning and then you took a loss on top of it. It's really hard to replace starting quarterback. So, our prayers and our wishes out for that guy, hoping that he heals up. Unfortunately, that's just one of the things about this sport. Guys can go down at any moment. But this is posted on my page, so if you want to go back and take a look at it, see where your team ranks, see where your favorite team ranks, see where your opponent coming up next week ranks as far as points allowed, points scored. It's up there. Let's take a look at the TFL now. I've got my TFL rankings a little different. I went to the TFL website and took a look at their rankings. The only difference is that the Ducks are below the Green Wave in the TFL official rankings. I've got the Ducks ahead of the Green Wave for the simple fact that they played really well against the Eagles. And they're a little bit more of a story program, a little more well-known of a program, a little more successful program. Going out the Eagles undefeated still. Mount Vernon Bears is up there at the top. Christian, if you could comment for me on the TFL rankings, because I was unable to find any information on the upcoming games. I was unable to find any information on the potential game of the week coming up in week 5. So if you want to comment on that really quick for us.
Of course, man. Hey, Morris, thanks for having me on the show once again. I appreciate it. In terms of game of the week, I'm not going to lie. The game of the week is the number 1 seed against the number 2 seed, or I believe still the number 1 ranked defense versus the number 1 ranked offense. That would be the Long Island Eagles versus the Mount Vernon Bangers. That game is going to be game of the weekend in my eyes. And Saturday, Mount Vernon High School. I'm not sure of the time, but I will definitely release that information as soon as I get it myself. In terms of comments pertaining to the rankings, it looks pretty accurate. The only thing I would say is I would swap 3 and 4. I would put the Green Wave above the Ducks because when the Ducks, I'm not sure do you recall the score of the Ducks-Eagles game?
I don't, but I remember it being really close. I think it was either a touchdown or within 2 touchdowns. Here was my thought process. My thought process was that the Bulldogs beat the Bangers. The Bangers beat the Green Wave. So the Ducks beat the Bulldogs, didn't they?
Yeah, the Ducks did beat the Bulldogs, but we beat the Ducks 40-something to 6. So it's tough. But I would put just off the simple fact that the Green Wave played us tougher than the Ducks. I would put the Green Wave at 3, and I would put the Ducks at 4.
Listen, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think the Ducks just have that name, so it just forced me to say, oh, they got the same record as the Green Wave. They've been around longer. In the championship moments, maybe the Ducks can pull it out. But I think honestly, you could flip the coin on that. I think the Ducks and Green Wave game would be a crazy game.
It is. I can't wait for them to play.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Wait a second. Wait a second. You know what's funny? I think they actually play this weekend. Oh, I think they actually play this weekend. I kid you not, because it's us versus the Ducks. It is the Bulldogs versus the Bengals, and the only 2 teams left are the Ducks and the Green Wave, and I believe they do play this weekend. That is going to be a good one to sell. That might be game of the week too, because who's going to be the first to 3 losses? Who's going to be the first to 3 wins? That matters.
That does matter. That does matter in a big way too. It kind of puts you in a little bit of a safe space, at the midway point of the season.
Yeah.
But I mean, that Eagles Bengals game is a big one. Like I was saying, I commented on the fact that the Ducks was, a top, 30 team in the country. But with this Bengals Eagles game, I think that's going to change a lot. And like you said, the Green Wave you could easily say is a better team than the Ducks. So if the Ducks was able to make it on that list, basically you should be able to say that the Bengals and the Green Wave are right there with them, just as good. You're talking about some of the best teams in the country, all playing each other in a very small league, but everybody has to see everybody. That's tough. That's tough. You had made a comment. Well, it was a question posed on 3 Belize's blog of which team has the better receiving core in the TFL. And, I was thinking about it, and my opinion was the Mount Vernon Bangers, but there's a good argument that Eagles receiving core is just as good, if not better, than the Mount Vernon Bangers. How you feel about that?
Oh, excuse me. I feel like it's a close race. Receiver for receiver, you can definitely make a tally chart and be like, okay, the Bengals got this, the Eagles got that. But in terms of what they can all bring and all provide, I feel like the Bengals receivers are better. I feel like each Banger receiver, with the exception of maybe 1 and 2, could be a number 1 on any given team. The Eagles, kind of the same thing, but not as many number 1s on any other team, if that makes sense. I feel like the Bengals would have more number 1s than the Eagles. And then more physical. I feel like we have one receiver on the Bengals that's just maybe, if not the most physical receiver in the tri-state area. And a lot of corners don't want to, step into that room with him or get in that phone booth with him, for lack of a better term, So
who is that you're talking about?
I'm talking about number 5, Henry Smith. That's a long day ahead of you. That man is physical. He will block you. He will jump up and catch it. He will get low and catch it. He will run through you with the ball. He will run through you without the ball. He is extremely passionate about his craft, and it oozes it. His body exudes that swag when he's on the field, and you can't ignore him.
Yeah, I watched some older Brooklyn Seminoles tape from just a year ago, 2 years ago, and I'm like, who is this guy number 5, man? He catches everything. He's lightning fast, super explosive. He's making big plays in big moments. And at the end, when they roll the credits and they show all the players' names next to the numbers, Henry. I'm like, man, this dude is a dog. This dude is a straight dog.
He's a big-time player. And one of the best things about him is that he blocks. And another great thing about him is that he's extremely passionate. Like, he gets my energy going when I'm out there. And I'm trying to speak as much as non-biased as possible. This is my first year being his teammate, and I would say the same thing 1 year ago, 2-3 years ago. So I feel like I'm pretty much on the right path, the right track when it comes to me not including my bias into these statements. But he's definitely a hard day. If I was a cornerback and I had to guard him, I would have to, prep, not even watch film, because I already know what he's going to do. I'd have to hit the weight room. I'd have to, get some wind sprints going. I'd have to definitely make sure that I'm mentally more so physically prepared for that day because he will beat you up, literally.
That's crazy. You know, one of the crazy things to me about the Bengals is that you probably got one of the better receivers in the game playing quarterback.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, cause shout out to Prince Reem. That's what he goes by on Facebook. He is
Yeah.
definitely one of those. He can play any position, any skill position. I'll say that. He's definitely he can play tailback. He can play corner. He can play safety. I actually met him when he was a defensive back. He can play wide receiver, which he might be more so known for. But him under the helm, it definitely is a dynamic piece, a big piece that you want to definitely pay attention to. Try and do your best to try to stop because he's gonna try and kill.
Yeah.
Um, he's definitely his transition to quarterback is good. He definitely knows how to read the field. He knows how to go through his progressions. He'll go
Got
to
a
the
great
check down if he has to.
yeah.
He'll stay in the pocket. Sometimes if he feels like it's a little too erratic, then he'll run out. But he'll still try and make a play. And the thing about it is he'll try and pass the ball. He's kind of like a Deshaun Watson. He'll try and pass the ball and make a play
Mm,
before running. If he has to run, then cool, he'll run. But the fact that he still wants to get his receivers involved and know that there's an opportunity to make a bigger play than with his legs, then he'll do that. That's another good thing about him playing quarterback. But him playing receiver is, that's I can't really tell which is more deadly, especially with the cast of people that we have around us right now. Because with him not at receiver, it doesn't necessarily help or hurt. Like we're fine. If he plays receiver, it would help. But it's like where does he have more impact? Because he would be impactful either way. But
that's
I can say the same for the Eagles. The Eagles have a very similar situation. Their receiver, played quarterback as well. Trayvon Thompson, shout out to him. He's number 12 for the Long Island Eagles, championship winning quarterback, and
shout
he's
out
a
to
championship winning wide receiver for the Red Devils as well. Shout out to them. But just like Kareem, he is a player that is that you can't just put one position on. He's an athlete as well. He'll run around, he'll make plays, he'll stay in the pocket if he has to, get his receivers involved for the bigger play. It's kind of very similar styles. Very similar styles. Different results, but their styles are very, very similar. Different cast around them and whatnot, but it's not a mirror match, but it's really up to the defenses. How can the defenses play and stop against these elusive quarterbacks? Because that's
yeah,
what the game is transitioning to.
that's the bigger question. I think you got two really good quarterbacks, great quarterbacks. You got two well put together receiving cores. You got great running backs on both sides. Shula is a great running back. He's been around a long time. That running back on the Eagles is a problem. I mean, he's a problem and a half. If you don't get in front of him, if you don't tackle him with form and drive through,
Yeah.
he'll just
Hmm.
keep running. It's really gonna come down to which defense makes the big play. But it's kind of hard to say that it's gonna be a shootout. I'm not inclined to say it's gonna be a shootout because the two teams are so good. They're so talented. It would be hard to see it being a shootout, but it could be. It could be one of those Red River rivalry, Oklahoma, Texas type of games where it's 50 points in the fourth quarter because both offenses are rocking and it's a big game and everybody's giving it all they got. So I don't know. I think my prediction for that game, 21-28, and it really could go either way. I can't put my finger on it. I really feel like this is not just a game of the weekend, but this is like the game of the first half of the spring, you know,
Right.
for
Right.
all leagues. We had that game with the Seacoast, Warhawks and the Cardinals, but the TFL's been around a little longer. These teams are a little more established with the Long Island Eagles. The Mount Vernon Bingers, although it's a newer team, the roster is a well-established roster. These guys have been around and been playing football for a long time. They're well known. So, I mean, just a crazy game. It's definitely gonna kind of shake up things and kind of put the league in perspective, depending on which team wins. Because think about it, if the Eagles lose, they're a 4-1 team. The Bengals are a 4-1 team. You know, later down the road when they got to see each other again, that's going to be
Again,
a
yeah.
pretty big deal. And vice versa, if the Eagles walk away with one, it could just be motivation for the Bengals to get it together, or it could open the door for another team in the TFL to kind of sneak in there and give it another shot. What do you think about the Bengals going winless this year?
I think it's unfortunate, man. I think, especially knowing what they had last year, they were, I think, the number 2 or the 3 seed last year, which is crazy. And we had more teams in the league last year, so a little bit more competition. I feel like whatever organization owner Edgy and coach Edgy had brewing over there last year, he needs to try and revive it and bring it back. I'm not sure of the intricacies or what really went down, or all the behind the scenes stuff on the orange and black land over there. But they need to repair whatever's broken, try and get that thing in the best shape as possible, and then try and get that motor running next season if possible. Like right now, they're going to make the playoffs, I feel, regardless because of, everybody makes the playoffs, but it's going to be an early exit for them. It's going to be like a tune-up game for whoever has to play them to get ready for the playoffs. So I feel like at this point in time, their goal is to try and at least win some games. If not win some games, try and put up some points on the board so that way they can have something to look forward to next year and build off of next year. If you guys, not you guys, but if the Bengals continue to put out a bad product for the next X amount of weeks, then there might not be a product next year. That it's not attractive to anybody who's going to want to come back to a program that doesn't win. Now, the thing about it is this isn't the first time that the Bengals have went winless. So, there are some players that'll come back, I guess, regardless of how the product looks, of course, because they want to play football, which is cool. But I honestly feel like changes need to happen. Not necessarily rebranding because they were good last year, but something kind of has to give. Something has to change, whether it be new coaches, whether it be a quarterback. I honestly feel like they need a quarterback, but maybe it might be deeper than that, seeing as how they had all those pieces last year and then they're on another team this year. So I don't know. Maybe it has to do with whoever's in the front office.
It's kind of tough. I played against them last year twice back to back with the
Yeah,
Falcons.
yeah. So you know that they were way better last year.
Yeah. The first time we played them, they were good, and the playoffs, they were way better. I
Right.
mean, they were way better. We had issues last year, and we thought that we fixed them going into the playoffs. And when we got there, it was a dogfight. I mean, they put a quarterback in. He was like 6'4", 6'5", 320 pounds. He drops back. We're not thinking nothing of it. The guy's sitting in the pocket. Somebody breaks free. We thinking they're about to sack him, and he leans back and launches the ball. I tell you no lies, 65 yards off his back foot. Launches the ball. And he threw the ball so far the receiver couldn't even catch up to it. And we were like, oh, we're in trouble. Like we
That's
thought the last
crazy.
quarterback was good. This guy's better.
It definitely wasn't number 16 because that's their original quarterback. The fact that they had somebody else and he's launching bombs off the back foot.
It's
Ugh,
crazy. And he was
that
playing
is
he was
crazy.
playing O-line and D-line the whole game. I think the original quarterback rolled the ankle or something. He got a little hurt, so they put the guy in, and
Mm,
he was running people over. We couldn't tackle him. He was huge. He's massive. He was running guys over. He was out in open space. They said, "Oh, he used to be a running back in the day." They had players from New Jersey. They had players from all over Brooklyn. I mean, I was
yeah,
seeing guys
yeah.
on the
Yep,
field, and I was like, "Oh, you're here? Like, oh, you're here? What are you doing
yep,
here?" They had the
yep.
they had the original cast as well. They had some guys that's been Bengals for forever. They had the makings of being a competitive team. If they could have kept that playoff team together and showed up day one, I think they'd be right in the mix. And it would be crazy because it's only 6 teams. So what would the records look like if the Bengals were a competitive team? I definitely I don't
Oh
see
my
them
God.
folding. I don't see them folding. But
I
like
don't
you
either.
said, a winless season could really hurt the program long term. You
Yes.
know, um, I don't know. Like you said, there's got to be some kind of changes. I don't know. Where they play. I guess there's a little home field advantage, right? Like there's no real sidelines. You're in the middle of Brooklyn. You got the walls on both ends of the end zone. There's no space to run out of bounds. Like it's a little intimidating, a little bit. It's like what the heck? Where am I playing at? But maybe a change in facilities, maybe a change in jerseys, you know, maybe just taking the team in a different direction might try to save them and bring some guys back there, bring some talent back to the
Right.
Bengals.
I
As far as
honestly
the
feel like they.
Bulldogs
I'm
are
sorry.
concerned,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I feel like they just need to recruit their asses off and just that's really recruit their asses off, and they needed some front office changes. Honestly.
Yeah. Moving on to the Bulldogs, I mean, they're a team that had a lot of talk that they were going to be great. in the all season. There was word all over the place. Hey, the Bengals are the real deal. The Bengals are going to be one of the top teams. Right now, they're sitting at 1-3, and that's tough. They got
Oh, the
a
Bulldogs, you mean?
yeah. They had a great win against the Mount Vernon Bengals. Last second touchdown. Mims does what Mims does. Goes up over a couple guys, makes a crazy play at the last second. But turmoil on the sidelines is never a good thing. You know, and they ran into a Green Wave team that I don't really think you can call a sleeper team anymore. Everybody's hip to the Green Wave now. Everybody knows that they really can play, and they're gonna show up and they're gonna test you. And the Bulldogs still got tested, and it kind of broke them up a little bit. So really, really like to see them with a tune-up game for the Bengals, kind of get it back together, get back on the right path, mend whatever broken hearts there is on that sideline, piece it up, let bygones be bygones and finish the season out strong because that is a decent program down there with some decent talent.
They are. They really are. The funny part about the Bulldogs is the same thing that they're going through this year is the same thing that they went through last year. Wonderful team, nice team, bunch of dope veteran players as well as a nice few younger players over there, which creates a great mesh and dynamic. But they just can't finish the games. Now, the reasoning for why they can't finish the games this year is a little bit different than last year. They were just getting outplayed last year. This year is a little bit different, but the path that they're going down is kind of the same. I believe their record last year to finish was 3-5. So if they end up with a similar record and then go into the playoffs at the same spot they did last year, still don't count them out because when they went to the playoffs last year, they turned it on. So even though the Bulldogs are kind of slacking right now, all that veteran talent that they have, those guys seem to get tapped in as soon as week 8 is over. So, they're still somebody to be, definitely on the lookout for, regardless if they've been taking their losses by shooting themselves in the foot or whatever the case may be. You have to go there ready to play. Don't expect these guys to argue and whatever happened. You have to go there with your chin strapped up, mouthpiece in, ready to play because they are ready to play.
Chin strapped up.
Yeah,
that should tell
listen,
you
you have
how they play.
yes. They're
I
not
think
playing out there. They're not.
that's one of the pivotal things about the TFL right now, with only 6 teams and everybody making the playoffs. Theoretically, as it sits right now, let's go back to it really quickly. As it sits right now, the Eagles and Bengals would have bye weeks, first round. So the Ducks or the Green Wave, however it goes, I think the league is saying the Green Wave would play the Bengals. Theoretically, the Bengals is a winless team. They could beat a pretty decent Green Wave team first round in the playoffs because everyone makes it, and you gotta show up to play. Don't The TFL is not, one of those cupcake leagues where you could just show up and goof off and you'll just win a game. You still gotta show up
Nope.
and play against that Bengals team. Don't show up with half your team and half your coaching staff and then you're just gonna walk over them because they might just shock you, you know. And same thing for the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs, no matter what their record might look like, they beat the Bengals once this year. They could get deep into the playoffs somehow and end up upsetting a team that's 8-2. At that point.
Yeah.
So kind of a crazy kind of layout right now in the TFL, and really be interested to see more teams get back into this league and it kind of build itself back out again. But just off of what we got this year, a lot of interesting stories going on. So right now, as it sits, we got 1 and 2 playing each other. Then you got 4 and 5 playing each other, and then no, you got 5 and 6 playing each other, right? And 3 and 4 playing each other this
Mhm.
weekend. That's kind of crazy luck.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's
Crazy luck.
definitely like if the underdogs all win these games, this entire bracket is changing. Literally.
We talked about this last week.
Yeah,
And
and look
we
what
talked about it
happened.
the week before. The Green Wave upset some people. The Ducks, we didn't really think the Ducks would beat the Bulldogs, but we gave them a fair shot, and they did that. So it could happen again. Like high chances that it could happen. This is not like like what if scenarios. Like literally every underdog could possibly win their game this weekend, and that would just
Right,
once again flip
right,
everything on its head. You know,
right. I mean, the only team. Go
at
ahead.
this point, I find myself going every time I hear the scores from the TFL. I'm going, seriously?
Exactly. On the edge of your seat, you never know. Realistically speaking, because of the turmoil that the Bengals are going through, the Bulldogs are going to get that win. At least we hope that they do. But I mean, the thing about both situations or both teams is that we kind of hope that both teams win. I mean, but this would kind of be the only week that they could because the rest of the schedule for the Bengals is definitely top three teams. So we
That's
don't know how well they're gonna exactly. We don't know how well they're gonna fare against the other top three teams. They have to get past this fifth seed. If they're able to muster something together, which is possible, then they can. The thing about the Bengals is even though they haven't won a game and only scored 6 points throughout week 5, they can move the ball. It's crazy. They've had plenty of goal line stands that they just happen to be unsuccessful in. But the fact that they've had that goal line stand, knowing that, you know, not all teams have kickers, and I guess I don't know. They start, they start with the ball at the 20. They manage to get to the goal line, but they just can't finish. If they have that one good day, or if they're just all feeling good about themselves, if they're just confident, if they just maybe do that one extra rep in the gym, that might give them those few inches to give them to the goal line this weekend. And you never know what can happen. I feel like they can do it. Maybe. I feel
well,
like
you
they
saw
can score. Not necessarily win, but maybe they'll be able to shock the world and put up some points. The only team that they allowed points was against the Green Wave. I don't think they play them again. So, I mean, I don't know.
that's
I think
tough.
the bigger question is, instead of the Bengals getting a win, will they score a point? I think that's a bigger question. They don't
Hmm.
have a kicker either. If they had a kicker, they would have points on the board for sure. They've had plenty red zone trips even against the good teams.
You know, people take it for granted. Getting in the end zone is not easy. Getting in the
No, it's
end zone
not.
is not easy. And the closer you get to the end zone, the harder it gets. You know, so good luck to the Bengals going forward. Let's take a quick
Yeah,
look
definitely.
at the Northeast Atlantic Football League. So again, this is a spring league playing mostly in Jersey, but you got some Philly teams in there. You also got some Delaware teams in there. This is their week 6 schedule. I don't know if they're on a bye, if they're going into the playoffs, but usually they have a game of the week out. Usually they've got flyers and posters out. Nobody, no team. The whole league is quiet. So I'm guessing that the season is coming to an end and maybe they're on a bye week between playoffs. But these are scores from week 6, the last couple games that was played. The unit still undefeated, 21-0 the Delaware Fire. Beat them down.
Hmm.
The Jersey Jags, 66-0 the South Jersey Thunder.
66. Wow.
66-0 them. Damn.
Ah, they were not playing that day. 66 points, a lot of points to put up.
I don't know what y'all said to them boys, but don't say it again.
Yeah, for real.
Crazy to see 3 shutouts in a single weekend. The Central Jersey Knights. I actually played with some of these guys in another league with another team just this weekend. They beat the Tri-County Owls 21-zip. Now I played the
Mm.
Tri-County Owls last year with the Hudson Valley Mountaineers and the IFL. Tri-County Owls played in a couple different leagues. They used to play the CT Militia. For a lot of guys out here that know those teams, they used to give the
Mhm.
Militia a fight. Last year they beat us on the Mountaineers 2 times in a row in Philly, and the Knights just handled them. So even though they're 0-5, I think that should tell you how good the talent is. The Hudson Valley Mountaineers was 17th in the country in 2A last year. So this is a 3A league, and they're proving that these are some 3A teams. The Philly Phantoms had a bye week, sitting at 2-3, and the Delco Tide. I guess it's like a Delaware Philly team. Um, Handled the Garden State Herd, and the Garden State Herd is one of the better teams in the league. So I think that was a pretty big game for the
Yeah.
AFL, 34-14. I mean, the one thing that I like about this league is there's firepower here. I mean, these are big scores. There's no 10-8 games. There's no 6-7 games. We're talking 30s, 20s, 60s, 28s. Um,
Yeah, offensive explosions, basically.
we're gonna figure it out. You know, I'm getting better and better with the formatting here. We're definitely gonna figure out how to get top plays of the week on the show. I think what we're gonna do is put together a little bit of a presentation, and we've got some clips. We're gonna put it all together, and then we'll post it on my page. But eventually,
Yep.
we'll be able to get those clips actually on the show. Um, so earlier today, like I told you guys to start the show off, talk to DJ James, quarterback of the New Milford Fire for 2 years. He played at WestCon. Got to interview him. I'm gonna post that interview on my page separately so that you guys will get to see that. We were waiting on Jeff Mack. Jeff Mack unfortunately was never able to join. But Jeff Mack, gonna pop this up here real quick. He actually played in the IFL for the last 2 years, I believe. Jeff was on the Bismarck Bucks with the clips that you're seeing right here. Jeff played for the Brooklyn Seminoles. He played for the New York Rebels. He went to CW Post, which is a FCS team in NCAA. He's actually a good friend of mine. We were born on the same day, same year. We were literally born on the same day. We played against each other all throughout Pop Warner, played with each other in high school. He's a great dude. You know, he just stays focused. He loves the game. Really wanted to talk to him, but instead of, you know, getting the chance to talk to him, you know, going to, I guess, just throw out some questions and kind of me and you will kind of go through it, you know, Rams. Jeff
Yep.
played for the Stags at one point in time. He played for who else? The Sweet City Bandits, the Omaha Beef. Right now,
Me
he's
and him, we went to Florida. We played for the Gators and Nationals.
Gators. He played for the Gators. I actually got some good pictures of Jeff playing for these teams. We'll come back to that. He's currently in the IFL. You see this right here. These are all the teams that play in the IFL. He's currently on the Topeka Tropics out of Kansas, right? You know, like you said, he played on the Gators. Got some pictures of him on the Knolls. He was on the Bismarck Bucks. You know,
CW Post.
he was a long time New York Rebel back when the Rebels were really rocking it, challenging the Knolls in the 5-star. He's a really, really good dude, you know. So, you know, when I think of a guy that really gets out there and gets it, I think of Jeff. You know, when I think of a guy that when he gets on the field, he's just totally locked in. He changes the game. He's kind of a quiet guy. Like if you ever played with him, he's not a hoorah guy. He's not a talkative guy. He's not a big guy either. Jeff is like 5'6", 5'7".
Yeah.
I think he might say he's 5'8".
super strong, super athletic. Put that in. He can play a
Strong.
lot of things besides running back. Dynamic receiver, has hands, has amazing footwork and vision. I think I already said he's very strong. Good teammate. Only time he really talks and gets boisterous on the sideline is when you know, the team is kind of messing up, for lack of a better time. Best, you know, the cleanest way to possibly say it, messing up. Then he'll, you know, that's when he'll voice himself or, you know, talk whatever he has to say to the team, motivate us in any way possible, shape, or form. You know, yeah, that's he's one of the best players I've ever seen. He's definitely a top 5 player I've met, period, ever. Like outside of NFL players, he's definitely top 5. He's so good. I feel like he should get a chance in the NFL. I feel like he would dominate. I feel
Yo,
like he would do really very good in the NFL.
he's one of the shiftiest guys I've ever seen. You want to talk about just like cut on a dime, just, you know, just totally change direction. In high school, I played mostly defense. It's like a hybrid linebacker. He was the running back, and we would go at each other all day long. I mean, he'd literally be in front of you in an instant. You know, before you could blink, he was like 3 yards to your right. And if you wasn't good at picking up on his movement, you know, you just would beat. And I'll never forget, we played in the state championship game. I mean, it was like the wind chill had it feeling like 7 degrees. It was brick.
Mm,
And we're playing in Long
yikes.
Island at Mitchell Field. across from Hofstra University, Nassau Community College's home field where I played my college games, and we're playing St. Anthony's, one of the best teams in the country,
Mm-hmm.
and dude has 5 touchdowns, over 450 yards. I
I
mean, just
believe it.
untouchable, untouchable. I mean, he's getting the ball, he's blasting through the hole. He's just, they're standing still, and he just goes right by him. You know, he's breaking
Yep.
tackles and just locked in, and he never slowed down. He never slowed down. So shout out to that boy. You know, he's one of those guys that really came into semi-pro and played semi-pro and then took it to the next level. You know,
He dominated.
he definitely
He
dominated.
dominated the game.
He
Him
definitely-
coming to semi-pro, I can't really speak for him, but me being a fan, a spectator, a player of semi-pro, him coming to the game definitely made it a lot better for everybody else. Him, just me being able to watch him before I even got to know his name, shake his hand, and become a teammate. Watching him was just a spectacle in itself. You know, grab your popcorn, grab your drink, you know, whatever. He's a show to watch. You know, like
Yeah.
every time he's on the field, I say wow or something of the sort like that. And you know, whether you make a good move and you impress guys that do stuff like that, it makes you as a player feel good. You know what I'm saying? So to just have that type of talent around you, to be able to pick up much and try and garner as much as you possibly can from his game is definitely useful to players that aren't as good as him. So to have him around is definitely useful. It's great. I love to win. He loves to win. You know, he's the ultimate teammate. You know, definitely not like the most verbal guy, like you said. And I guess maybe me saying the ultimate teammate is perspective, but I feel like he's definitely one of those guys that pushes me to be a better player. You know, so I feel like that makes him an ultimate teammate. He motivates, inspires, you know, and he celebrates with you.
You know, one of the things about Jeff that I always appreciated was that Jeff was never the me guy. I never
Yeah.
seen him be the give me more touches, put me in the game, put me in the game. He did his thing, and that's his personality. You know, he's kind of just like, it is what it is. I get my shot, but when he gets his shot, he takes advantage of it. And I think the reason why I want to talk about this and really call attention to it is because that's the kind of mindset that it takes to get to the next level and to dominate.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy that you can input into a locker room and it works. You know, he's not pissing guys off. He's not making coaches not, want them around. He's not stepping on anybody's toes. You just gotta respect it. You just gotta respect it. And then I'm sure Jeff has plenty of guys that hate his guts. You know, there's plenty of guys that like, man, this dude came and he took my shine, and they probably won't say it out loud, But at the end of the day, you gotta respect, what he is and what he does. And what I really wanted to talk about with him was, it didn't matter if he was in high school. It didn't matter when he was at CW Post. It didn't matter whether he played on the Stags or Rebels or the Noles. It didn't matter if it was Nationals or it was in the season or now in the IFL. His impact never changed. He had the same crazy impact. He made the same crazy plays. He was the same crazy talented guy that he was worried about. It didn't matter what level he played at. And, kind of looking back at it, there was some times that he was challenged on a semi-pro football field.
He was what?
Challenged. There
Oh,
was
yeah.
times where he wasn't breaking it, and he was fighting for the extra yards. And he was getting cradled up. And I think it goes to show you that there's a lot more talent in this level than people give credit for. Because like you said, I truly, honestly, in my heart, 100% believe if Jeff Mack was playing in an NFL team right now, he would be a contributor. He would be solid. I'm not sure if I'd say he'd be a starter, but he'd be a solid contributor. And not just a special teams guy. Like, you put him into your offense, you get the ball in his hand in open space, and he's getting you
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. You can tell by just the way he moves. He moves like an elite football player. Like that type of stuff is not easy to emulate. You can tell that that's years of work and grind behind it. And the fact that he suffered one major injury. Shout out to him from bouncing back completely from that one. But other than that, pretty injury prone, with the exception of that one. And that didn't even sideline him for that long. He came back the next year.
Yeah.
So he's definitely. Listen, everybody wants to be a Jeff Mack type player, and when it comes to him not being a me guy, that's something that people can appreciate because not for nothing, and this is just me talking. He doesn't have to be a me guy because in certain situations you want to give him the ball. So whether he wants to be the me guy or not, here you go, Mac, take the ball, So he's that type of player. He's a playmaker, the definition of a playmaker in semi-pro.
Yes, sir. I mean, definition of a playmaker, and
On all levels, not even on all levels. Excuse me.
And a hard worker too. I mean, I talked to him. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget talking to Jeff when he was at Post, and he said, "Bro, screwed up." And I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "I broke my ankle." And no, I think he broke his foot. Like, I broke my foot, and I got to get surgery. And he's like, "I'm done. Like, it's over for me." And guys don't know, he played behind Anthony Brunetti, who was 6', 225-pound running back. He went to Holy Trinity. We played against him every year. When we were freshmen, he was a freshman. He got moved to JV. He moved to JV. When we were sophomores, we started on varsity. He started on varsity. We played against him every single year. Jeff ended up playing with him. They gave him the nod over Jeff. And Jeff gets injured, and it's just like it devastated him because he's like, they already had this dude pegged to be better than me, and he's not. And now I got the injury, but I talked to him, and he had his pops who talked to him. He had his brother, and he was just a motivated dude, and I seen him work his ass off, and when he came back better than he was before the injury. And I watched him slowly earn more and more and more reps until Jeff was the guy. And then when he was the guy, there was no turning back. And he took that same work ethic into semi. And I took time off. I took years off. I took 4 years off when I left Nassau after the car accident. I took 2 years off after starting playing when I was with the Bandits. I left the Bandits and took 2 years off. Jeff just kept going the whole time. And his hard work throughout the years, it finally paid off, and you can see it. One of my things, though, is like, it's hard for players at this level to make it to the next level because you got to be self-sufficient. And not like, I'm not going to say self-sufficient, like you really solo dolo. You're really on your own.
Yeah.
There's no leagues that are plugged into the CFL, the XFL, the USFL, which, in my opinion, if there's any league that should be loaded with semi-pro players, it's the USFL.
Yeah, honestly.
But we're not plugged in like that.
There's no pipeline.
There's no pipeline for overseas. Guys really are just doing it on their own. And that's why I took some time to shout out Coach Batchin, because he's got a guy in the USFL. And the honest truth is the CT Brawlers was a single A team. And they were not a very good single A team either. They might have been a little better. They ran a 5-2 defense. Sometimes it was a 5-3 defense with no safety over the top. They ran a really
crazy
offense. But they just wasn't a great football team. But they had some good players. Actually, Nooney Ellis, the corner on our team, was a CT Brawler before he joined the Tar Heels and then came over to the Falcons with us. So they had talent. They had some guys that could ball. But the coach, he takes his players down to Mexico, plays the Mexican national team. Takes his kids overseas to play overseas teams. Tries to get scrimmages with colleges. Got himself a head coaching job overseas, and then brought as many guys as he could with him. Reached out to me and had a 30-minute conversation. Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm trying to do. I want as many semi-pro guys as possible. We need more guys like that. And
That's dope.
We need more guys like that. We need more guys branching out, reaching out, saying we got bowlers. There's a guy, Delton Rogers, that I didn't realize was as young as he is. I've known Delton's name for a long time. You want to talk about explosive like Jeff? You want to talk about a game changer, a dude that's just a straight dog? He's one of those guys. He's 22 years old. He should be out there. He should be out on somebody's team making an impact for their organization, but he's not. He's home playing semi-pro. He's not really surrounded, by a system that's building him up, And Jeff, to me, in my opinion, Jeff is a product of that. He played football in New York. If Jeff played football in Texas, he probably plays at Texas Tech. He probably gets his chance on the NFL roster, Probably doesn't. He probably doesn't play at Post. He probably plays at a 1A school somewhere in the South End, and we know his name, right?
Right. New York schools are known to, they're not really revered for football as much as the Southern schools are. More so basketball, but
that's all a coaching mindset. The coaches in the South will scratch and claw and kill themselves to get a guy a star. To get their high school athlete a star and another star and another star, and to say I got a 4-star guy on my team is a necessity in the South. You have to have that. Right. If you don't got 4 or 5-star guys in your team, coach, you're fired. You got to get out of here. There's some pride to it. There's some glory to it, but there's a whole lot of money going through it.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah,
that's some big boosters down in the South dishing out some funds, saying bring back wins, bring some guys to my alma mater. And in New York, we don't have that. In New York, we got tight pockets. We got more money going through soccer camps, golf tournaments, bowling tournaments, women's lacrosse, and youth baseball than we will ever have going through a high school football program.
Yeah, in the city area at least. And like I can say in Long Island or at least in the suburban areas, they definitely will have some finances behind their programs. It's a little bit more different out here than in the city for sure.
And that's why you see a lot more of the top talent in New York coming out of the Long Island area. You really do. You go back through the books and you go and you look at the guys who have made it D1 and played at some big schools. A lot of those Penn State guys from New York, Long Island kids.
Yeah.
Rutgers guys from New York are Long Island kids, or PSAL kids, So it's kind of crazy that mindset trickles over into semi-pro up here as well. Because, look at the NEAFL, right? They're in Jersey. Now, we know Jersey is considered the South of the North, right?
Yeah.
It's South of the North. But when you look at their high school programs, you got Bosco, you got Bergen Catholic, you got
I know no Jersey programs. That's amazing that you know all this.
You got Woodlands. You got a bunch of different programs out there, right? You got these really powerful teams, and they play, the Hoovers. They play, the Trinities in Texas. They play all over the place, right?
Oh.
And when you look at their semi-pro teams, it's very similar. Because you think of teams, at least for me, I think of teams like the New Jersey Stags. I think of the Hawkeyes. I think of the Sharks. I think of these really powerful teams and the way that they present themselves when they go on the field. Music blasting, cheerleaders, big announcers, jerseys are legit. The coaches are in gear. They got the headsets. These guys are playing football. They're not playing
Yeah.
semi-pro. They playing football. Whatever. It don't matter what level it is. If we playing football, we playing football.
They do have headsets. They do have the
Yeah.
headsets. I saw that.
They got the play sheets. They got the laminated play sheets, and they all dressed right, and there's no BS. You know what I'm saying? And they balling. And on all
If
those teams.
only. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nah, good.
I was gonna say if only all semi-pro teams, not even in just Jersey, but the tri-state area, adopted that ideology. Let's improve our product, which will overall improve the league. It's people don't think that deep, but the fact that they have all that helps. It's a great attraction point. It's good. It looks good to the players. It looks good to the fans. It looks good to everybody that wants to come record the games, and it looks good to people that don't know about semi-pro. Because there is a good and dark side to it. That is a very positive light on semi-pro, knowing that they have all those amenities there, which should be at every game.
I was checking out Stephen's live. The guys that don't know, Steph is a quarterback who plays in New York. Great player, been a great player for a long time. And he did a live, and I just happened to jump on, and there was a conversation about, the Players Association, and it clicked in my mind. Dave Patterson kind of brought this up, and he said that the players are a workforce, and he's right, because you could kind of think of semi-pro as like the intern level of pro football. This is kind of like that level where, you're not the big boss. You're not a full-time employee. You're not getting paid lots of money, enough to live a comfortable life, but the expectations are really high. You got to do your job really good. You're the intern, You're the guy that can come in and make some mistakes and not do the greatest job, but we're not paying you. So really, you're just here to learn. I think semi-pro started out as a platform for guys to move on. It started out exactly as what Jeff and DJ have done. Go into it, get the film, keep your legs moving, strengthen yourself, and then find the place that you kind of fit into. That's what semi-pro is supposed to be. Some guys found semi-pro as a home for them to kind of, this is my football career, right? And some guys look at it as, I don't want to play pro sports. I'm done. My college years is over. It is what it is. But I still love the game and I want to play. So that's why I always say semi-pro has its place, right? I think the current format of semi-pro has its place. I think there is another level of semi-pro that's missing, and it should exist, right? And when I look at teams like the Marlboro Shamrocks, the Brooklyn Seminoles, the New Jersey Hawkeyes, the New Jersey Unit now, I look at some of these bigger teams like the Sumter Sharks, some of these teams like the Chattanooga Eagles, these teams that are really at the top and they're just doing it all right. Even New Milford Fire, although they closed their doors for this year, hopefully they come back next year. These are programs that are embedded in their city. They've got cops and security at their games. They've got the police force, the fire department showing up with cops, cars, and fire trucks, and they fly helicopters over the field. And they got that national anthem, and they sell T-shirts and merchandise, and they've got the concessions open, and they've got an announcer, and they're clean. The uniforms are put together, and like they build out the right program. Just like if you were to go to work, let's say that you work for McDonald's. McDonald's is a franchise, right? If you go to work and you get hired for McDonald's and you walk in, and you can't tell who's your coworker and who's the person ordering food because nobody's wearing their uniforms. You come in and the cash registers aren't turned on. The grill in the back isn't turned on. Nothing's clean. Everything's just sloppy and disgusting. You'd be like, man, I don't want to work here.
Right.
There's going to always be some people that just take the job because it's paying me. Like, screw it. I'm just going to show up and take the job. There's going to be some people that show up and They treat it like a joke because it is a joke. There's gonna be some people like me that come in and go, "Yo, let's clean this place up. We're at McDonald's. Let's be McDonald's." And I think that's exactly what's happening with semi-pro. You know, we have an organization that's kind of in shambles, and nobody's really taking the lead to bring it back to what it should be. You know, and that's a huge task, and it takes more than one person. And I've noticed the same response from a lot of the older guys that have been around. Yeah, I tried that. Man, that's wishful thinking. I really like the idea, but I can't see it happening. And I think it's because all of these guys at some point have either brought it up or tried to do it, but they tried to do it themselves. And when I say themselves, I mean they tried to do it in their area. But this is not an area problem. This is a wide problem, and it takes more than one. You know, they always say it takes a village to raise a kid. I think it takes a village to do a lot more than raise a kid. It takes a village to be a village. You know, it takes the person who does hair, and the person who cooks food, and the person who hunts, and the person who gathers to all
Right.
work together in order to create the system that sustains itself. And that's kind of the issue with semi-pro because number one, you got to get rid of the bad apples. You got to get rid of the guys who don't want to do it. And if you're not gonna get rid of them, you got to at least put them all in the same group together. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got to try and weed them out,
You got to
or
weed
they'll
them
weed
out.
themselves out.
If it's only four teams that play four teams because they're four teams that just are terrible organizations that only ever show up with 17 guys and never have a field and never pay for refs, then those are just the four teams that got to play each other because no other league will accept them if that's the case. And you can't look at the $1,000 or the $1,500 or the $800 league fee and say, well, they came up with the league fee and they got a team, so we'll let them in. You know, that's like ground level, like requirements, standards,
Right.
right? Everything has standards. Everything. The car that you drive has standards. It has to have a seatbelt. It has to have an
Yeah.
airbag. You know what I'm saying? If a car was only $500 and the insurance was only $10 a month, but it came with no steering wheel, no seatbelt, no e-brake, you had
Do
to
you
sit
want to
on
drive?
it. Would you buy it? So why
No, not at all.
so why are you letting these organizations into your league that are the equivalent? You know, they got no quarterback, they got one coach, they got no GM, they haven't been around, they jump from league to league, they folded 3 times in the last 3 seasons. Why are you letting them in your league? You know, it can't do nothing but harm.
Wait, hold on, I can't hear you. Hold on.
Yeah, you hear me now? You got me now?
I can't seem to hear you. I'm gonna rejoin.
All right, good. Yeah, that's kind of the big question for these leagues is if if you wouldn't buy that kind of a car, if you wouldn't buy that kind of a product, you know, we made the McDonald's reference earlier. You know, if you walked into that McDonald's, would you buy a burger from them? You wouldn't. So why would you let that kind of a team into your league? Yes, sir. So if you're not gonna buy that burger from that beat down McDonald's, if you're not gonna buy that beat down car, why would you buy that beat down team? You know, and if you let in one bad apple, then you know you're gonna create a situation where you're letting in a lot of bad apples. And when you think about talent like a Jeff Mack, talent like a DJ James, when you think about guys playing at a super high level,
Okay, I hear you now, but your voice sounds like you have settings on it. It sounds like sounds like you're trying to disguise your voice. It's crazy.
How's that?
But yeah, you sound like ASAP.
That's kind of crazy. I don't know how to fix it though. Um, is that better?
Let me see. I don't know why you sound like that.
No, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, just to keep the show going, I just I don't think that if you continue to let those products in, that you'll attract the kind of talent that we're talking about today. I don't think you'll be able to attract the Jeff Max or the DJ James. When I talked to DJ, he referenced, the reason that he joined the Fire was that it was a friends group. It was a bunch of guys that he had grew up with, and when he got there, it was in shambles. The organization wasn't doing good, and you know the offense was doing bad, and the coaching staff didn't really have it together. And he kind of brought what he had just finished doing in WestCon to what they were doing in New Milford, and he kind of built that team up. So it's kind of hard to attract a guy that doesn't have friends to semi-pro if you're not going to support that level of talent. And we got a lot of guys that can ball. You got to think about it. The Jeff Max and the DJ James of the world, they currently or was just playing semi-pro ball. And yeah, they were dominant, but they weren't out here, just babying guys. They wasn't out here just like men amongst boys, you know? So you got talent, and I think one of the big things about improving the system is just constantly stepping your game up a little bit. Just constantly taking it to the next level. So, I think we kind of drove the point home. I definitely want to try again to get Jeff Mack on the show so we can get his point of view. I think you definitely should take a second, go to my Facebook page, check out the interview with DJ James. If you're watching this on YouTube, definitely gonna post that interview with DJ on YouTube in a separate video. Um, just want to say really quickly, Christian, I guess he was having some technical difficulties. He said he couldn't really hear me. We'll get him back on the show next week. Just want to thank everyone that joined the show tonight, everyone that watched the show. Thank you for joining the show as always. The whole point of doing this, we're just trying to improve the game, trying to kind of bring the game to the people so that you guys understand there's a whole level of great football with great teams, with great personalities, great guys out there playing football at the highest level. They're playing to the best of their abilities. It's fast. It's hard hitting. There's some great plays. We're gonna get the top plays going on the show. But as you can see, guys like Jeff Mack playing the sport. You'll see clips of DJ James and what those guys are doing. We got some top clips from the Seacoast Warhawks and the Cardinals game that's going to be up there. Guys are balling. And if you're a fan of football, you definitely should be watching semi-pro football. You definitely should be showing up to some of the games. So next week, I think we're going to try to talk about a couple different topics. I don't want to give away too much, but we'll talk about creating a players union, and what that might look like, and how practical that could actually be, and what the impact would be on semi-pro. We're going to talk about traveling and expenses, and going to try to shoot out some real ideas about how we can fix that. We'll talk about injuries and medical care. And the big question that we'll try to answer for people is, why do we play semi-pro? And that's a wide ranging topic. So again, we're always looking for sponsors for the show, but also for the leagues, for the teams, and the players, right? Please reach out if you're interested in more info. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up the show. Have a great night. See you at the 50. Peace.